My name is Taylor Luetis, class of 2012.
My name is Dominic Martinez, and I'm a second-year law student.
Hi, my name is Noelle Sauer, and I'm a member of the 1L class.
And I am the first recipient of the Law Alumni Association's
Full Tuition Merit Scholarship.
The scholarships that the Alumni Association supports are life-changing in so many ways.
I knew that I wanted to come to law school. I knew that I wanted to be back in New Mexico, but I thought that I might have to take a couple of years off to work and save up money before I could come back here.
I know that it motivated me to work harder in law school, to do things that I might not otherwise have done.
For me in particular, it's life-changing to know there are people who believe in you enough to support your goals and dreams.
The scholarship changed my life and really allowed me to focus on my education while I'm here in law school.
It solidified my decision to stay in New Mexico, to attend law school here, and to become a New Mexico lawyer.
The confidence that inspires is helping me get through my first year of law school.
The scholarship was life-changing for me. It allowed me to come back home.
Your support of events like these, like the Distinguished Achievement Awards Dinner and the golf tournament, make these scholarships possible.
You're helping to support one of 3 full tuition merit-based scholarships.
And we can't thank you enough for your contributions and your generosity.
Congratulations to Briggs Cheney.
Congratulations, Judge Elizabeth Whitefield.
Congratulations, Professor Richard Gonzalez.
Thank you again for your generosity and support.
Your support really matters, and we couldn't do this without you.
Thank you everyone for coming to events like these and continuing to support our law students in our UNM School of Law.
I've known Elizabeth for over 30 years. She was my law partner at Kelleher & McLeod, and been a good friend ever since.
You know, I've known Elizabeth for almost 20 years. I remember the first time meeting her was at a Board of Bar Commissioners retreat, and I was coming in as chair of the Young Lawyers Division, and so I got to attend the meeting. And it was an awkward time for the YLD, or the Young Lawyers Division, because they weren't really active in the bar. And I said at the meeting, I said, I'm meeting here with the adults. You guys are the adult bar. And later that night, we were at the bar. There's like one bar in Pandarei, and all of us were there. And I looked at Elizabeth, and she just looked straight at me, and she said, "We're not adults."
Elizabeth was 2 years ahead of me in law school. I met her, we became kindred souls, decided we needed a women's bar association for the state of New Mexico. That was back in 1989, 1990. I first wanted to meet Elizabeth because she was dating all the eligible bachelors in New Mexico, and I was single. And I thought, well, she's a good person to know. She knows all these eligible bachelors, and so I got to know her. And then it led on from there to a beautiful friendship.
Elizabeth's probably one of the most positive thinking people I know. I don't want to go into details, but she's had a lot of tough times in the last number of years with her health. But her attitude has never changed. She's always extremely positive, very interested in what other people are doing. And it's very clear whenever you talk to Elizabeth that she cares what you're doing, and she cares about you. And that's probably why she's been such a success over so many years.
The first thing that struck me about Elizabeth was her kindness, her professionalism. She was always willing to be a mentor to us women trial lawyers. And she was always available for answering questions, whether they be personal or legal.
What makes Elizabeth a great mentor is she's approachable. And she has the attitude of there is never a problem that doesn't have a solution. And she tells you that, and she will work through with you what you think is a problem, and then you realize it's not really a problem because she's worked through it with you. And I know she's mentored me, and she's mentored Mariposa, she's mentored Antonia, and so many other women. Well, I mean, she was the founder of the Women's Bar Association. I mean, what better kind of mentoring opportunity for women than being a founder of that association?
There are 3 women that started the Women's Bar Association, 3 founders. Carol Connor, an administrative law judge, myself, and Elizabeth Whitefield, who at that time she was an attorney at Kelleher McLeod, which she enjoyed for many years, being a partner with Kelleher McLeod. So the 3 of us got together and decided we were going to found a Women's Bar Association. We had a little bit of too much wine to drink that night. We drew straws as to who would be the first president, second president, etc. And I was chosen as the first president, and Elizabeth served as the second president. And the organization commenced. The first meeting we had was at the Albuquerque Country Club. There were 1,000 women who were in attendance at our first meeting. The first meeting was exciting, unruly, because we had a lot of wine, we had an open bar, and it happened to be the same night as Desert Storm. The first Bush had declared war that night. And so we assumed there would be no attendance. But amazingly, 1,000 women came. They were not going to miss out. My impression was that due to the efforts of Elizabeth particularly, they were mobilized to see what this was all about. And they were not going to miss out on an opportunity like this.
In the early years at Kelleher, there was this secret society called the FAC, which was the Female Attorneys Conspiracy. The women lawyers in the firm would meet after work and conspire in order to change things in the firm. Our managing partner, Russell Moore, was very interested in trying to infiltrate that group, but he couldn't get any of the male lawyers to take the steps necessary to join. Well, as I understand the FAC, it was designed to try and promote women within the firm and to create a group amongst them that they could support each other and take management roles in the firm. And Elizabeth was the first woman to be an executive committee member of Kelleher McLeod.
Initially, the Women's Bar Association met at the Albuquerque Country Club. We thought that was kind of fun, Elizabeth and I did, because it was like the male bastion at that time. So we thought we'll have our meetings at the Albuquerque Country Club every month. So the meetings commenced, and a contingent in the Women's Bar Association decided that it was inappropriate to meet at the club because the club discriminated on tea times. Women were not allowed to tee off until 2 o'clock in the afternoon most days. And it may seem amazing today that that could have been going on, but that was true back then. For some reason, the newspaper, the media picked up on this change in our meeting place, and as a result, we were written up in USA Today. A cartoon was printed in the Albuquerque Journal by Trevor, showing Elizabeth and myself with briefcases coming into the club, arguing about TEE times and TEA times.
When Elizabeth was running for judge and she wanted to be a judge, it was a no-brainer for me to support her enthusiastically and wholeheartedly, and I campaigned for her and helped her. And because, one, she is so well respected in family law. I mean, she's just a giant in family law here in this state. And she gives such practical and no-nonsense kind of solutions. But I think because she practiced family law for so long and she handled so many different cases, she's very good at coming up with some creative solutions to help families. And I remember when campaigning with her, she was saying, I am here to help families. I'm going to help your family, because my job is to keep families together.
You know, Elizabeth's a real person. That is probably her strongest quality. people instantly know they can trust what Elizabeth is saying. They know that she's going to be tough. She's very tough-minded, but she's also extremely caring.
The impact Elizabeth had on my practice was that I became more thoughtful about my cases, about conversations I had with other attorneys, and I listened more. Elizabeth's a listener, and she taught me to listen, which is an attribute that many attorneys do not have, but she does have, and many of us need to cultivate that trait. But she taught me to listen.
Elizabeth is my friend, and Elizabeth makes friends for life. She's exceedingly loyal to the people that she cares about, and I hope we're all loyal to her as well. She's fun to be around. She has great ideas. As I said before, Elizabeth's always enthusiastic. She's always inquisitive. She'll never stop learning. And she cares about people.
Elizabeth really is, she's just my true north. And I am going to get emotional. I just love her. And personally, she's done so much for me, and even for my family. My nephew got married. She presided over that marriage, and when my nephew got married, I said, well, we got to go down to Socorro early, because I've got to make guacamole for like 200 people. She's down there making guacamole for us, you know, so she's with me, and she really does treat me as her sister. You know, her little sister, she has talked about Glennie Franchini being like her older sister. And when Glennie died, she says, you know, Mary, I've had an older sister, and now I have a baby sister. I have you as my little sister. And I'm just so proud to be part of that sisterhood. And I'm so thankful for the Alumni Association for recognizing Elizabeth in this way, and I continue to wish her the best of luck and tell her I love you, Elizabeth.
I first met Dick Gonzalez when he married the older sister of a childhood friend, and at the time I didn't realize that he was going to be so influential in my life.
Yeah, I first met Dick in Salinas, California. He was working for CRLA, California Rural Legal Assistance, and I went out there to interview for the position of the executive director of that statewide agency, and they arranged for me and my wife Robin to stay with Dick and Ann. Dick was, I think, the director of training for CRLA, and so I indicated I wanted to go see one of the field offices, so they sent me out there, and so we stayed with Dick and Ann, and that's where I first met him.
Dick and I met when we were both delegates to the Model United Nations our senior year at UNM, and he was practiced at that. I don't know how I even got in the group, but we had a great time, and that's when I first met him, and that's when I became very interested in him. I think the thing that really attracted me to Dick is I was an English teacher, and the first time I went out with him, he corrected my English. And I thought, this is one smart guy.
The next time they met was several years later when my dad was in his last year of law school at NYU, and my mother had been accepted at NYU. And so she went out to go visit him for spring break. 3 months later, they were married. That's the story of their romance.
I didn't see much of NYU actually in the week I visited. Dick took me to plays, we went to musicals, we had a wonderful time. I saw a lot of the city and very little of the school.
I I can't really remember a time when I didn't know my dad was a lawyer or involved in the law profession, but I think for me, it was more, I was more impacted by the fact that he was a teacher than by the fact that he was in law, although obviously that was related to it too.
When I heard that he was applying, I was very excited about it. I figured this was somebody who had really good litigation experience, had been working in legal services, and he had a great academic record. I figured he would be perfect for this law school, especially since he was New Mexico native, Albuquerque native, went to high school here. I thought it would be great, and it proved to be true.
The amazing thing about Dick was that he was good at teaching people the law, but becoming a lawyer is about a lot more than just learning the law. And he was just wonderful at that whole kind of mysterious process of making law students into lawyers.
Dick is someone who prepares really diligently. He pays a lot of attention to what it is that students need to learn and what will help them learn. I think he's always put his students foremost, and I think it's shown in terms of the kinds of teaching reviews that he got from students over, I guess 30 years or so as a faculty member here at the law school.
The fact that he was a teacher and that my mom was a teacher, I think really impacted me in terms of showing me how important education was and making that a focus. And I also grew up writing a lot and having my writing corrected by both an English teacher and a law professor. And I don't know if anyone else has grown up in that environment, but it makes you a good writer. And that has a lot to do with why I ended up going into patent law, because I was able to combine my love of science and engineering with my love of writing.
I think Dick always held students to a really high standard. And while I was in law school, he had something that I privately called the list of shame. It was a list of misspelled words that had appeared on exams. And because I occasionally recognized my transgressions on it, I always dreaded the appearance of the list of shame. And each misspelled word would have a funny remark next to it. I remember because it was my own. Admissible, spelled with a second A, is not permissible, was the remark. So just by that kind of gentle, humorous, but relentless persuasion, he made people realize everything counts, it all counts.
Dick's involvement in the law school, starting in 1976, he was here during a large part of the transformation of the school, when a lot of women were coming in, a lot more minorities were coming in, and he was a faculty advocate for increasing the number of minorities in the student body. He served on the admissions committee for years. But he also had really high standards. Dick was somebody who wanted to give people opportunities, but he also wanted to make sure that people were held to high standards. Because he held himself to very high standards, and he expected others, his faculty colleagues and his students, to meet those standards that he set for them, as well as he set for himself.
One way I try to be like my dad, I think, is to be as honest and as open as I can with my clients and in my work and in my life, I hope. But I think honesty is incredibly important, and I think that's the best way we as lawyers can serve our clients, is to educate them and be honest with them, and that's what I try to do every day.
He was my clinical professor. At that time, the law school had a program called Centro Legal, which did a huge chunk of the misdemeanor defense for Bernalillo County. And Dick was one of the key leaders of that program. Every day that we had clinical that was an arraignment day, we would be handed a pile of files down at the courthouse, and we would be told to find our clients who were showing up to be arraigned. And then those were your clients for the rest of the semester. And Dick did such a great job of guiding you through the, interesting, painful, funny process of learning to represent people and trying cases in court.
Right after he started teaching, only a few years, I got this call one morning during the summer from this young female, and she said, "Professor Gonzalez's wife?" "Yes." "You have to bring a pair of pants down to the federal courthouse immediately. I don't have time to talk to you." So I rushed down with a pair of pants, not knowing what in the world was going on. Dick had tried to get out of the car, and his pants had split in the crotch all the way around. And he was supposed to be in Judge Meacham's courtroom in a few minutes. So he had his clinical student call me and then run up and ask Judge Meacham for a short continuance before the hearing, which Judge Meacham, upon hearing the circumstances, agreed.
I think that's inadmissible evidence.
I think a lot of people know that he's also a very serious bicycle rider. He probably rides in excess of 100 miles a week. He's been to the Tour de France, not as a competitor, but he's been there with a group that sort of rides part of the stage for that day and goes to the next stage and for the tour, and then again rides with this group for about a part of the stage. He's very serious about his bicycling, and in fact, remember when law schools would have auctions and raise money for students, and he would also always put up for auction a ride up to the Sandia Crest with a student, and if a student could beat him, he would double whatever money was put into for the auction. Some years, very few years did anybody challenge him because they know how serious a rider he is.
What I admire most about my dad is that he's always been such an incredibly loving and supportive father. There's a lot of talk right now about privilege, about people who grew up in privilege, and I know that I grew up incredibly privileged, and the way in which I grew up most privileged was knowing that I had parents who supported me no matter what I did, no matter what I became, what happened to me, anything, any choices I made. My parents, I knew, were going to be there for me and were going to love me and were going to help me get to whatever my goal was. And I can't imagine a better dad.
When you look at Dick's whole life, all the things he's done with his life, I think he has lived a very distinguished life. He spent the early part of his career helping farm workers. He came to the teaching process from a long period of training young lawyers in the legal aid and in the farm worker process. That's tremendously important street creds for the making of lawyers. He'd worked with the EEOC. He had a great education, and in his personal life, he's a great dad, great grandpa, great colleague and longtime friend and mentor.
I think the most important thing is that he loved what he was doing, and because he loved what he was doing, there was joy in our house.
And discussions about the exception to the hearsay rule at
True.
the dinner table frequently.
Out of court statement offered to prove the truth of the matter asserted. She obviously got it better than I did.
I first met Briggs Cheney 50 years ago in 2 weeks. It's been that long. And we were going to the same fraternity house, approaching in different directions. We walked in together and within a week became instant friends. Briggs and I were in the same fraternity for 4 years. We roomed together off and on during those 4 years. I would wash my clothes. Briggs had what I call the Cheney compost method. He would just create a large stack of dirty clothes and pull a pair of whatever out from under the bottom, believing that somehow they had been cleaned by the time and temperature they'd been in that stack. But we became very close friends during that period.
I've known Briggs for 28 years almost. I started working for him that many years ago and got to know him as a boss, then as just working with him, and as a very good friend through the years.
I met Briggs when I started at Sheehan as a law clerk, and then I've started working with him more and more over the last several years representing lawyers.
I first met Briggs in 1999 when I got back from a rehabilitation center in Rayville, Louisiana. And I was facing disciplinary issues with the State Bar Association, and Briggs was my attorney. I later found that Briggs was part of the intervention team that really helped to save my life.
Briggs is very unassuming. He is very humble. He is a very smart man and a very good man, but he doesn't laud it on anybody. It's something I've admired about him ever since I met him, and it's something I wish I could be.
You can call Briggs a lawyer, an attorney, but what he really is a counselor. You know, you hear the phrase counselor at law. He truly epitomizes that phrase.
Briggs Cheney to me is one of the most kind-hearted, caring and compassionate men I know. He's in the vein of my father, which is a high, which shows how much respect I have for him. Briggs Cheney and his work with other people like me with issues with substance abuse is commendable beyond words.
We have a lot of fun with Briggs, and Briggs has a lot of fun.
A lot of fun with us.
With a lot of people. Well, there's a certain lawyer in our office who bikes to work, and Briggs is a biker. He just did a ride for the MS Society. So he likes to bike. But this certain lawyer in our office who likes to bike also knows that Briggs likes to give him grief about his particular bike seat. And we don't know if it's true or not, but Briggs has certainly mentioned on more than one occasion that he has ridden that bike around our office in the nude.
Yes, this lawyer left the bike over the weekend, I think.
Yes.
And Briggs had seen it in his office, and of course had to tell this lawyer on Monday, hey, I rode your bike around the office. Boy, that seat, it's wonderful.
It's a really nice seat. But I am serious that I see every day when I work with him that he helps so many people in so many ways, and much of it goes completely unnoticed, except by the person who calls, and perhaps sometimes not even them. He's an amazing, amazing lawyer, and he does everything that I wish I could do in a lot of ways. He's just fantastic.
It's difficult for me to say what makes Briggs special. There is something about him that you immediately recognize. Part of it's kind of this humble approach that he takes. You know, I've been involved in litigation with Briggs. I've been on the same side once or twice. I've been opposed to him. I have never met a lawyer that didn't like Briggs Cheney. I have never talked to a lawyer that when I mentioned Briggs Cheney didn't have something good to say about him. Briggs is a lawyer's lawyer. He's the kind of lawyer you want to be. I think he's helped young lawyers find jobs. He's mentored young lawyers. What it is about Briggs, if we could can it and sell it, we'd all be billionaires.
If Briggs is nothing else, he is brutally honest. And I think that's what I respect about him so much. And he's honest with himself, he's honest with his clients, he's honest with his friends, he's honest with his colleagues. And that's what helps me when I work alongside him. I think he tells me, how do you be honest in a nice, compassionate way? How do you be frank and also tell somebody that you're there to help them? That's what he does.
Because of who he is, Briggs will tell you that a lot of people helped him get through law school. And there's not a lot of truth to that if you've heard him say that. Briggs is a very smart individual. He thinks deeply. He will spend a lot of time thinking about the consequences of doing certain things. Within the last year, I've talked to Briggs about cases and sought his advice because he always has the ability to give you a different perspective. He has the ability to tell you how he thinks a jury will react. So I've watched him do that. He's done it for me on occasion, and he's exceptional at that. He is a lawyer's lawyer.
One thing about Briggs, when he deals with, for example, lawyers with substance problems who face disciplinary issues or suspensions or disbarments like me with the Supreme Court, is that his care and concern is here, but it's the love that he expresses for you when he makes you realize that the past is the past. We don't need to forget it, but don't need to live in it forever. And he always inspired me, and I know others who have either been involved with him in interventions or legal issues. He inspires us to move on, to make a better life for ourselves.
Lots of lawyers, many lawyers, most lawyers go to school to help people. That's what we want to do. We're problem solvers. That's why we do what we do. You won't get anybody to challenge that. What's different about Briggs is that it happens every day, over and over again, with people that he didn't even think were going to call, and they do. And he's there, and he does it. It is not something where we say, I need to give back to my community this year. How am I going to do it? It is his way of life. It is what he does when he gets up in the morning, and it's what he'll do when he gets up tomorrow morning, whether he's in the office or riding his bike or whatever. It's very different, and it's pretty incredible, actually.
What I've come to really like about Briggs is he rarely, and I mean rarely, says no to helping out, to joining a committee, to going to talk to someone with problems, taking a case and not getting paid for it, you know, those kind of things. But what I really have come to not like about Briggs is he can't say no. I mean, there have been calls sometimes, one call after another, where I literally get up and I go in and I go, no, Briggs, no, you can't. Does it work? No.
He's helped to save a lot of lives. He's helped to make people's lives better. And he does it without any expectation of return. And sometimes the people he tries to help don't make it, but he never gives up on us. And he never gave up on me.
I don't think Briggs earned this award. It just comes naturally to Briggs. He deserves this award, and for Briggs Cheney to represent the University of New Mexico School of Law, I can't think of a better person to do it.
I love Briggs Cheney. I relapsed in July of 2004. And I had to face all the humiliation and embarrassment and the legal issues. And Briggs Cheney never turned his back on me. And he was there to fight for me. And it didn't mean getting me out of trouble. It meant making me suffer the consequences of my actions. So that maybe I could be a lawyer again, and maybe I could get the trust of my family. And by the grace of God and the help of lawyers' assistants and Briggs Cheney, I got my license back on October 14th of 2008. and I've never been a better lawyer.
Briggs' full name is Briggs F. Cheney. And there are probably a lot of people out there that don't know what the F stands for. And I'm not going to tell you. But I will tell you that from my perspective, and probably everyone who knows Briggs, it stands for fortunate.
I just love Briggs Cheney. And